Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we are jumping into yet again another beer from a brewer I've never had anything from prior. This time it's from Temescal Brewing Company based out of Oakland, California. This is a Pilsner simply called Pils. Clocks in right in the Goldilocks zone at 5% ABV. So I've had quite a few beers from brewers I've never had anything from prior in the last several weeks. And it's a pretty cool trend because I always like to see what other people are doing and trying different beers from different brewers, supporting other local small craft brewers as they build their business. And yet again, we've got another Pilsner for me to jump into, which, as I said a few reviews ago, a Pilsner is just a really solid fundamental beer style that, if it's done well, can tell you a lot about a brewer. So we're going to jump into this one to see what Temescal Brewing's take is on a classic Pils. Nothing too fancy with the label, just says Pils, yellow label. That's it. So let's get this cracked gently. All right. We're going to get this poured right in the glass. Pilsners do tend to form, obviously, very nice, tight, foamy, creamy heads. So I didn't want to get too aggressive at the start because it'll happen naturally as you slow the pour and tilt the glass back up. So I've still got several ounces left in this pint can, but you can see it formed that classic, beautiful, thick, lush Pilsner head. Absolutely lovely. This is textbook, picture perfect, light golden straw, pale yellow color. And as I was pouring it, I could really start to smell it. It smells very much a classic Pilsner. I'm going to get right up on it for a proper sniff. Oh, wow. Okay, so not sure what it's going to be like when I jump in, but this smells exactly like my absolute favorite Pilsner in the world, which is the German Pilsner by Bitburger, which is just Bitburger Pils. Bitte ein Bit. It smells exactly like that, exactly like it. That is more of a hop-forward Pilsner. Has a little bit of subtle undercurrents of honey in it, but it's got this noticeable hop bite up front. So I'm going to be very curious to see, Pilsners, I'm assuming here they're using a classic German or Czech recipe with nice Pilsner malts, and probably using German noble hops. That's going to give it that kind of classic underlying aroma. So it's got that same aroma to it. It's got this slight honey sweetness to it, that very distinct kind of weedy, baked good, bready note to it. One more sniff. Yeah, subtle undercurrents of pear and apple on the nose, and just a slight suggestion of citrus. This one smells like a slight mix of lemon and orange. So overall, we're looking at what smells and looks on the surface like a classic Pilsner recipe. So messing my beard is what it is. Let's jump right in and see what this one's about. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I am very, very pleasantly surprised with the flavor profile of this beer. Not only that, but before I even swallowed it, it really started to open up and let me see what this beer's about. First thing I noticed was classic mouthfeel for the Pilsner. It's not a super viscous beer style. It feels nice and light, very much has a nice light body to it. It just floats around the mouth, a little bit of carbonation, and immediately upon swallowing, it took me straight into a glass of Bitburger. And that, for me, is among the highest compliments that I could give to any Pilsner. It's my favorite for a reason. I've had hundreds of different Pilsners over my 20-some-odd years of drinking craft beers. And Bitburger, for me, is my absolute favorite. And I'm personally a big fan of the Czech and German style Pilsners, but I really enjoy all these sub-styles and other people's takes on the classic Pilsner recipe. There's a reason that this is the most absolute imitated beer style in the world by a vast margin, and it's the most popular beer style in the world by a vast margin. Everything about the Pilsner screams crisp, refreshing, and light. It's just an easy drinking beer style, but that doesn't mean that it has to lack on flavor. And that's why I prefer the German and Czech styles. And a lot of these American craft brewers, they've been doing great justice to the classic traditional German and Czech style of brewing the Pils. This is just another great example. So I'm going to jump back in. I already talked about the body and mouthfeel. I'm going to jump back in, really think on how the flavor develops and really pay attention to the finish on this sip and see if I missed anything else really critical for you. Up front, very first thing you get, slight suggestion of fresh mowed grass, very common in a Pils. I like that. It's got this slight honey-like sweetness to it, a slight floral quality to it, and it's got this nice kick of bitters. It's really all coming at you up front. So there's this honey, this floral quality, this mowed grass quality, and then this nice kick of bitters. And it hits you with a real zing up front and then slowly backs down. And then it kind of holds relatively steadily as the rest of the flavor profile kind of decays out. There is a very nice bit of what tastes very much like wheat. It's very distinctly wheaty. Obviously beer made from barley, but it's got this baked good quality, like fresh baked bread would come from wheat, obviously. The majority of breads that we all know and enjoy and eat all the time or bake for ourselves at home. It's got that baked good quality about it. It's biscuity, it's crackery, it's got this crusty-like quality to it. It very much puts me in mind of baked goods, and that's a very classic hallmark of a German and Czech style Pilsner, and this is really coming through and absolutely doing wonders for me. Now, in terms of the hop bite, yeah, it's there. It's got a nice kick. I think that's coming more from volume than deviating out of the spectrum of doing justice to the classic style. I don't know the exact hops they use, but I would be absolutely shocked if they're not using German and or Czech or a combination thereof noble hops. It tastes the part. This tastes as good as any German or Czech Pilsner I've ever had, and I am thoroughly, thoroughly pleased with this beer. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, count my scores. When we come back, I will get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Temescal Brewing's Pils, obviously a Pilsner, 5% ABV on this one. Temescal is based in Oakland, California. So starting with the aroma on this was one of those Pilsners that really had quite a pronounced aroma to it and smelled very much like a classic Czech or German style Pilsner. This one overwhelmingly reminded me right away of my favorite Pilsner in the world, that's Bitburger's German Pils. Same aroma profile, slight honey sweetness, a little bit of mowed grass, some ripe fresh fruit, and a ton of baked goods. Absolutely smelled like a textbook Czech or German Pils, and a very pungent aroma indeed. Aroma does get a 10 out of 10. For the taste, yet again, this reminded me of my favorite, and that is very, very high praise. It was just your textbook classic recipe of how a Pilsner should be done properly. You had that slight honey sweetness, a little bit of mowed grass kind of notes coming through, had some ripe apple, some pear, and underlying slight lemony take to it. Then all of that grain created this baked good underlying profile, which is so common. We're talking biscuits, we're talking toast, we're talking crust. It was all in there, and I absolutely loved it. Nice hop bite on the front too, very much in the style of a classic German or Czech Pilsner. This one's top tier. The taste does get a 10 out of 10. For the body on this was nice and light, textbook Pilsner. Body does get a 10 out of 10. For the mouthfeel, same story here. Nice bit of effervescence you could feel. Not a ton of viscosity. Nice and creamy when you agitate around the palate. Mouthfeel also gets a 10 out of 10. For the finish on this was quite a bit longer than your average Pilsner. Really, it was the intensity of flavor and really a little bit of decay left on the hops that helped push it out longer than your average Pils. This was definitely above average. The finish gets an 8 out of 10. For the head and retention, this was, yet again, textbook, perfect, thick, lush, creamy head. Head and retention gets a 10 out of 10. For the appearance, Appearance was that pale yellow straw color. That's exactly what you expect, exactly what we got. Appearance is a 10 out of 10. For the balance on this beer for my money was absolutely incredible. Everything that they put in here really played its part. They had the right yeast strain, the right malt bill, the right amount of hops, and the right varieties, and it all worked together beautifully. Balance gets a 10 out of 10. Feeling the intangible, you may already have suspected, but when I say this reminded me and was so strikingly similar to my favorite Pilsner in the world, you can bet, yes, feeling in the intangible does get a 10 out of 10. Finally, as an example of the style, this is a top tier, world-class Pilsner for my money. It only lost a couple points at all in one singular category. This is about as good as it gets. Example of the style does get a 10 out of 10, which brings the total score on Temescal Brewing's Pils to a 98 out of 100. So if you're a fan of Pilsners, if you're a fan of trying different styles, or you really prefer the classic German or Czech style, this one is exactly what you're looking for, and I highly recommend it. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live to YouTube, just turn on the notifications by clicking the bell right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.